We are the ones that show the world who God is. And if we are doing things that are completely contrary to him, then we're damaging his name. And so we need people to come to us when we're doing that, and we need to go to other people when they're doing it. Matthew 5:14-16 talks about how we are the light of the world. We are the city on the hill. We are supposed to let our light shine so that people will see our good works, and that will cause them to glorify God. Well, if we're doing things that are contrary to him, then they're not seeing our good works, they're seeing our sin, and that's not going to cause them to glorify God, right? And so we want to represent him well. That is very, very important. We are supposed to look different than the world. God says that we are supposed to be holy as he is holy. And we think holy means perfect, and we're like, well, we're not that. But that's not what it means. What holy actually means is to be set apart. And so he says, I want you to set yourselves apart, look different from everyone else, just like I look different from everyone. And if we're not doing that, then we look just like the world, no reason that we are able to point them to God at all. And then if we're saying we're Christians, and yet we are acting completely contrary to him, then we're kind of pointing people to God. But the problem is that that's really not God. And so we have made him look in a way that he is not. Have you ever heard people say they don't want to go to church because all those people are just a bunch of hypocrites? Or they don't want to go to church because those people are judgmental. All they are is self-righteous. They tell them all the things that they do wrong. They're doing more wrong things than we are. When we don't represent God well, not only do we make him look bad, but we make the whole body of Christ look bad. The church looks bad whenever one believer acts in a way that is not really the way the rest of the church looks. But if the unbeliever sees that person and they say, that person is so self-righteous, they walk around and they act like they don't do anything wrong. And actually they do things that are way more wrong than I do. I even know that that's wrong. And somehow they think it's okay and they do it. I don't want any part of that. So we have to represent God well. This is very important. But there's a few things that we have to keep in mind before we just go telling everybody to stop doing all the things that they're doing, okay? The very first thing we need to do is examine ourselves. Maybe we're not tainting God's name in the same way that that person is, but maybe we're tainting his name in another way. Maybe it's even worse what we're doing than what this other person is doing. And then we're going to go to them and we're going to tell them about their sin. And they're going to say, really, you're talking to me about that when you're doing this? Are you kidding me? And so we need to examine ourselves first, correct ourselves first, and then we can go and talk to someone else. And so this is Matthew 7:1-5. And it says, judge not that you be not judged. A lot of times people just stop right there and they think, okay, well, I just can't judge anyone else and that's it. And that's not what it says. It continues. It says, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure that you use, it'll be measured back to you. So he's saying, don't go hard on someone because they might go hard on you. If you're judging people, they're going to judge you. So you got to be ready for that. And then he says, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but you don't consider the plank in your own eye, the more egregious sin of your own? How can you tell your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First, remove the plank from your own eye. Then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So it doesn't say we can't ever judge anyone. It just says, first, make sure that you've got your stuff in order. Clear your conscience. Make sure there's not something glaringly apparent that you need to change before you start going and talking to everybody else. And then make sure that you're willing to receive whatever you're doling out. Make sure that you're kind to someone if you want them to be kind to you. It isn't to say that we're never supposed to confront anyone. We just need to take stock of our own things. James 2:10 says, "For whoever shall keep the whole law and yet stumble in one point is guilty of all." If you break one law, you're a lawbreaker, just like everybody else. And so we've got to remind ourselves of that and take stock of our own sins before we go talking to someone else.